Welcome to Be On It, episode 29, part 1.
Debbie, what's going on in the beehive today?
Hey, Jessica. I was thinking about pregnancy. It's this unique experience in a woman's lifetime that is like no other, mentally, physically, socially, and the bringing forth of a newborn baby. It's absolutely magical, and just also it's a process. What do you feel about pregnancy?
I agree. I think it's different for everybody, and every pregnancy is so different. I feel like you're blessed if you get to carry a baby. And I always felt that I was very grateful for being able to carry two babies successfully, because that's not always the case for some people, unfortunately. I was high risk. And so I know there's others out there that have health issues that they face while being pregnant. I just remember how scary it was, but exciting. And, you take each trimester, with a win. Every time you get through something, it's a win that you've made it a little bit further. And it's just so magical having this little being growing inside of you, and just how it evolves and changes over the next, 8, 9 months.
Right.
Your body changes, and all the physical changes and mental changes and things that you don't expect and no one really prepares you for. People mostly prepare you for like what to expect while expecting, but they don't ever like prepare you for like what comes after. You're going to be parents and navigating having a new baby in your life. You don't really know what that looks like because you've never been a parent.
Yeah, I also agree too. Along those lines, a lot of emphasis is put on the physical manifestations of pregnancy. And it's so much more than that. And I'll use a phrase from Maria Montessori. She says it's a spiritual embryo. And I totally agree. And if you consider the child inside of you as not just a physical being that's being formed each day, each month, each trimester, so that it can be a baby that can grow outside of the womb, but also a spiritual being that's developing inside. To me, that's equally as important as the physical development.
Oh, I totally agree. The soul's always been there. Now it's just gaining its vessel. I think that the whole complexity of
It's
pregnancy and
complex.
getting pregnant, it's amazing. Like, to be privileged enough to get pregnant is just a win in all itself, because it's not always so easy for everybody to get pregnant. People struggle and they have loss. It's not always the happiest experience for people. So when you finally do become pregnant, you have all these emotions. If you've gone through some things before getting pregnant, you have all these feelings. It's when you begin to worry about another life that you're carrying, or you love this little thing you've never met, and you're wanting to protect. It's where the motherly instinct comes, this animalistic protection comes in, and you don't even know where it comes from. It's just there, and this need to survive and to take care and to love. When you think you don't have enough love to give, you just meet this little being that you deliver, and all this love just comes out of you. It just continues, and you just see things in a new way and in a new light, and you learn so much. There's just so much I've learned from my children and pregnancy and what I would do differently. What about you? Like, even getting pregnant, I didn't think was going to be easy for me.
Yeah. Tell me about your experience.
With my oldest, I'd always had very difficult periods and anemia. I suspected that I could have endometriosis. I thought, I don't know if it's going to be easy for me to get pregnant. I really didn't know. And of course, if you have endometriosis, you have to do exploratory surgery, and I hadn't crossed that bridge yet. I was newly married, and my husband and I were in a good place financially. And about the 4 month mark, I ended up getting pregnant. Didn't know it for a couple of weeks that I was pregnant, but just didn't think it was going to be that easy. Um, and for some miracle, it was.
Yeah.
And just all the complexities, because I'm a high risk pregnancy because of my protein C deficiency. My internal medicine doctor freaked out. He was like, whoa, this is something that should have been planned. He was like, we need to get you to a perinatologist. And it was like a whole thing. And everything had to be controlled in a safe manner because I was so high risk of, I don't even know all the things. It's probably ignorance is bliss, honestly. Now that I work in mother baby, it's a miracle that I delivered safely with both children and that I didn't hemorrhage. I was very fortunate.
That makes me realize that come in with positivity versus too much negativity, because you're just coming in with the positive and you're open, you're taking things as they come instead of coming in catastrophizing of what could be.
I just, I took it one day at a time.
Exactly.
I was very sick with my daughter for 7 months. It was kind of a rough pregnancy when it came to sickness. Nausea, vomiting. When I wasn't vomiting, I was great. I felt pretty good. I delivered in September and I worked until June when I had to go on bed rest for short term. The plan was that I was going to be quitting and staying home for a while to be with the baby. I had to quit a little sooner because of the bed rest. Sometimes I'd forget I was pregnant here working in assisted living. I'd get on the floor and I'd realize, oh my
Whoa.
gosh, I can't get up. And so this sweet little old man that's confused would help me up. Sometimes, with first pregnancies, things haven't like changed in your body. They're changing, but you're still not, it's hard to explain. Your muscles are still tight because they've never been stretched from carrying a baby, kind of newly stretching and making room. So I felt really good and I didn't carry really big with my first pregnancy. It was just a perfect little round basketball.
So you had the nausea and vomiting, but were you able to eat though, or not eat so much?
The healthier I ate, the more it came up. And I tried to eat very balanced, like some proteins. I think in the morning, I would had to be very careful what I ate. Like I tried yogurt, that didn't work in the morning. I had to wait a little bit, drink some water, and then I think I had a little protein and that would help a little bit. But pretty much everything I ate just came back up. For whatever reason, I craved sugary things, like weird sugary things like that. Remember that candy called Fun Dip?
The
It was like a
powder
little powder.
and the
Maybe it
chalk.
had some calcium, like maybe it had something in it, but I craved it like one time. I told my husband, I go, I need this. So he went and got it for me. So I don't know, like that must have been a nutrient that I needed. I had perfect teeth before I was pregnant, like no cavities, no issues ever, because I always went to the dentist regularly and took care of my teeth. Well, calcium is depleted when you're pregnant. I just remember my body must have needed extra calcium. I had to take it's like 4 tums. The doctor prescribed 4 tums besides prenatal vitamins to make sure that I was getting all my calcium. I tried to make sure I was on top of that. You kind of feel it just kind of being taken away from you because this baby
You,
needs it.
yeah. Did you
I,
feel
I
that?
felt it internally, but I'm very in tune with my body.
Okay.
I just felt all those changes. I felt like my teeth would ache a little bit more. All these changes in my body.
Yeah. Because the baby, what the baby needs, right?
The baby took what the baby needed, exactly. And I kind of felt that within my body. I tried to give the baby as many nutrients as I could, but some things I just couldn't keep down. I just learned to kind of eat very carefully, stay away from some things. I craved spicy curry
Oh, really?
with my daughter. Yeah, my first pregnancy, spicy curry, loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. Just funny little things. It's funny because that never came back up. That would stay down just fine.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever she needed, I tried to give in the most healthy way possible. There were times where I craved those weird little things. I think I had that candy one time. Like, and when you're pregnant, you have to have it. It's like that food noise is real. It's like, get me that
Really?
now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, especially in light of the fact that you were having the nausea, vomiting, when you do have
Yeah.
the need or the craving for something, you do want to satisfy that because you're dealing with the
Oh
GI
God, it was
upset.
terrible. I worked in assisted living memory care as an activities assistant. I remember lunchtime, we would have to all gather together to help feed the patients on our little unit. And smells from the lunchroom, I would have to run to the bathroom and get sick because the people just knew. It was just certain triggering smells to this day even bother me if I smell those smells.
Don't you feel like your sense of smell was much more sensitive during
It
pregnancy?
was so much more sensitive.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm not a person that vomits easily, but during that particular pregnancy, whew, any little thing would set me off.
Okay.
So usually the morning, if I took an anti-nausea medicine, it would knock me out. And I couldn't really take it if I had to work. I learned that for whatever reason, the combination of a sweet and sour candy, I think the Sour Patch Kids, for whatever reason, a few of those in the morning with a saltine cracker seemed to help.
Really?
I don't know why. It was a good combo and it worked for me when I couldn't take anti-nausea medicine and it would like help just get me through the day of work, an 8-hour shift when I was working at that facility.
Yeah. They say ginger's supposed to help too. Did that work for you?
I probably had ginger ale, but I didn't really want to drink soda. So I think I had like a Sprite every once in a while. I never drank caffeine. I don't remember. Maybe that's why I craved some of the spicy Thai and curry. Maybe it had some ginger in there. I don't We didn't have internet like we do now where I could research like all the things. Somebody had advised me on that and to try that. I tried that and it worked. Did you have any like nausea with your first pregnancy?
So I'm very sensitive to hormones. And when you get pregnant, you have that HCG hormone that, is there. That's what the pregnancy test tests for, is that HCG hormone. Very, very sensitive to that. And similar to you, I got pregnant about 4 months after I got married. So first year of married life, and it wasn't easy. My husband worked a lot. He worked like 12-hour days with 1 day off a week. I was doing classes and working part-time, trying to get into school to do a program. I got pregnant, and so I continued with these part-time jobs, but I was sick all the time. I mean, it wasn't just in the morning, the misnomer morning sickness. It was all day throughout the whole pregnancy. It felt
Oh, that's rough. You had a very similar experience to me.
it was terrible. Feeling nauseated is a terrible feeling to have.
Oh, it's awful.
And as much as I love eating and, enjoying my food, when you feel nauseated after you eat every time, it's no fun at all. I somehow was able to take in a good amount of food, though. I think that's what the baby wanted, to be honest. Kind of out of my control. Felt nauseated the whole pregnancy. I do feel, though, that being distracted with work is a good thing. You don't want to overwork yourself. Obviously, because this is a very special time in your life. You want to enjoy it. You want to support yourself as well as the baby growing inside of you. Don't forget that you also need to support yourself.
Yeah.
You're the mom. You have to support yourself. You're going to be there before and after this baby's born. And you want to be the best version of yourself physically and mentally. So don't forget to do that. Distraction does help.
I agree. Like working really did help. And I mean, for the most part, I had morning nausea. And there were a few times other things would get set off, just depending. Pretty much 7 months out of the 8.5 months I was pregnant, I was sick
Yeah.
with my daughter, my
Yeah.
first pregnancy.
It's just part of it. There are some individuals who do not have as much nausea during their pregnancy, but I feel like it's pretty common to have the nausea. And obviously you have to watch what you eat. You don't want to take anything that's harmful for yourself or the baby.
Right.
Be really healthy with your diet, and then also have some exercise. Take your prenatals. Don't take ibuprofen.
Right. There's a lot of things you can't take. And so, you have to do some more natural methods of like ice and heat, and no one prepares you for all the things you can't do. And it's kind of a rude awakening because you think, "Oh, I can eat all these things." Well, no, you can't, because one, you want to feed your baby nutritiously as best as you can, but also you don't want to like feel uncomfortable if you gain so much weight it just is heavy on you. For me, when I was so sick, I put on only 15 pounds. But I was not a tiny person. I was already kind of a plus size curvy girl anyway. I gained just enough to carry the pregnancy. I couldn't keep things down. There was one time I thought I might have to go in for fluids because I just couldn't keep things down, but I ended up being able to stop. I was having a time towards the end where I just couldn't stop vomiting. And I remember we were at the mall and I called the doctor and I said, "Hey, I can't seem to keep anything down." And they wanted me to come in and they're like, "Try one more thing and go home, put your feet up and then see how this goes." And that seemed to help. And then pretty much after that, it was like the tail end at the 7 month mark, things started to get better. When the doctor would say, "Oh, I guarantee you're going to feel better," I was like, "I don't believe you. I mean, I know when I deliver, it's going to be better, but
That was a
no one
blatant lie.
prepares you for how rough." You think, "Oh, it's just going to be the first trimester." You don't expect it to keep going on, and it keeps going on. And
And on
that
and
is
on.
hard to deal with because my first pregnancy was so different from my second pregnancy.
Yeah.
Completely different.
I have a question though, like, because we were talking about physical manifestations, but mentally, spiritually, socially, where were you at with this first pregnancy? Because I'll tell you that those things matter.
Those things very much matter. I was in a good place. We were married. We bought our first home. We had a dog. I wouldn't recommend getting pregnant so fast after being newly married. I feel like we should have taken our time a little bit to cultivate our marriage. But you know what? It worked out. Got married, and then 4 months later, I was pregnant. And we had talked about it. We were in a good place, but then we thought we should wait maybe a little bit longer. And then I was pregnant. So, and I'm glad that that worked out that way for us. It was such a gift. I always wanted to be a mom. And I was fortunate enough to get to stay home for a little while and be with our daughter and just be able to bond with her. My husband worked from home at the time, so he had a back office in our home. He would come in for lunch and it was a good time. I would say the whole pregnancy itself was, I mean, I was sick, yes, but it was a good time because we were newly married. We would go out with friends and we were very social and we had a new home. We were decorating that. I feel like it was a good place in our lives.
So you felt like you were pretty supported though, mentally and socially.
Mentally, I didn't have any issues. It came after. I had postpartum issues after. So during, no, I felt I was glowy. I mean, I would get sick, obviously, but I didn't think there was a lot of support for that. The internet wasn't the same back then when I delivered. I didn't have all these questions because I trusted the doctors, and ignorance is bliss, like you said. I'm glad that I didn't work in a mother baby unit at that time. I think I would have been frightened being high risk. I was a little worried about how is the delivery going to go? Is everything going to be okay? Especially when I got pregnant in December, into December. And by June, I went to a doctor's visit and there was something wrong. And I got a little scared because, what's wrong? Is everything going to be okay? We learned her umbilical cord was short and something about amniotic fluid. I can't remember what it was about the amniotic fluid, but they wanted me to go on bed rest. So I ended up going on bed rest and quitting. And I was going to be delivering early September anyway because I was high risk. I think it was 37 weeks I delivered with her because of the risk of clotting. So they wanted to control the labor by switching me from Lovenox shots. So they wanted to put me on heparin in case there had to be a C-section, and they were trying to avoid that. So everything had to be controlled, which is a challenge in itself.
Something that I wanted to mention too is that you kind of don't know what you don't know. And so
Right.
unless you educate yourself, and nowadays you have the mom groups that you can confer with during your pregnancy. You obviously can speak with your OB. And so whatever you do take in and choose to adopt or practice during your pregnancy, you have to vet to a certain extent.
I agree, especially now with so much information out there. And if you are high risk, you will tend to Google things, an AI overview. I'm glad I didn't have that because I would have been freaked out.
But I think like in our day when we were pregnant, there was a lot of old wives' tales, like
Oh, yeah,
old women who were saying, do this, do that, do it this way, do it my way. And I think you really have to vet that and choose what works best for you because
for sure.
they had their own pregnancy and
Right.
they had their own lives and you got to live your own. I mentioned my husband worked these long hours, 6 days a week. I had some part-time jobs. I was trying to get into a school program. And that's when I was in the midst of that when I got pregnant and didn't know how to really take care of myself during the pregnancy and support myself. And on top of that, I did feel a lot of loneliness during that initial beginning phase. And so that first trimester. So I ended up moving in with my mom and my sister shortly thereafter. I felt like I was taking in others people's advice too much.
Interesting. See, people weren't giving too much advice to me. I would read the old pregnancy book, What to Expect When Expecting. That was what was available back then. Matt and I would read that together.
With your partner. I think
I
that's
mean,
super
people would be
helpful.
like, are you gonna find out the sex? Yes, I wanted to know what I was having. I'm not a girl that likes to be surprised. I wanted to prepare and so people had old wives' tales about taking a ring and swinging it a certain way and I'm like, okay, whatever. I was young, independent, feeling pretty good. I mean, with the nausea, I had to do what worked for me. Like I was sick so long for so many months that I just had to do what worked for me. because the anti-nausea medicine would just make you sleepy. It couldn't work. So just take everything with a grain of salt. And I didn't know what to ask. There weren't a lot of questions that I had after I found out, like I had to go on bed rest for a short term. There were a few questions I had, but it was kind of go with the flow, which I think that not over analyzing, keeping a positive attitude, trusting my doctors really got me through.
I would also add to that, trying not to feel certain expectations that other
Right.
people have of you. Instead, surround yourself with supportive people and instead ask yourself questions. Bring stuff out of yourself because there's a lot of soul searching that happens during pregnancy because it is preparation for what will inevitably happen, which is, delivering a baby whom you have to support and bond with. I think I took too much in and let it sway me in certain ways. Somebody outside of my immediate family was like, well, if something happens to the kid, it's your fault, or it's a sensitive time. So I became that persona of, if something happens, it's all my fault. There's a huge amount of responsibility there. Like, I got to be sure not to do this and not to do. It was a lot of not to do things versus do things.
I mean, I think the only thing that I got now that you say that is don't do any heavy lifting, take it easy. Well, I worked and I had people would help me move tables and chairs, but I felt pretty good. I didn't do any strenuous things. And if I felt like I had to do that, people would help me. But when I went on bed rest, everything changed. I was very careful, very cautious. You do have to listen to your body. But yeah, especially with all the information that's out there these days. Yeah. You have to ask your doctor. I asked other moms, like my friends at the time were great supports. They had 2-year-olds, but one had the same sort of condition that I did. It was a protein S versus a protein C, but I kind of she had to be on Lovenox shots too. So that was kind of comforting because it was a little scary being high risk and not knowing what that completely meant. But there's never any talk about what happens after. And that's where I experienced the most change was after. That's a whole other thing where I think we're going to have a part 2 to, even discuss that.
I ended up having pups where I was getting itchy. That was starting month 8 to delivery, where I was just constantly itchy. But I was constantly itchy all times of the day. Nothing, Benadryl, nothing helped me. The only thing that helped was like rubbing my belly or having somebody rub my belly kind of just took my mind off of things. But I just kind of want to go back to the mental support. Looking back, asking yourself, oh, okay, Debbie, I didn't really have much of a career at that point in time. So a lot of unresolved aspirations and okay, fine. What are you good at? What could you bring forth as a mom? There's some innate qualities that just come naturally, but there are others that don't come as natural for some people. I wasn't this person who was thinking I always want to be a mom when I was little. That just bringing those things out of me were things that were amiss at that time because you're just dealing with all these physical things that I wasn't supported and I didn't support myself.
Did you know how to ask for support though? Because I didn't know how to ask for support. I didn't feel like I needed support during my pregnancy. I wish there was a support group during pregnancy. You could talk to other pregnant moms.
Yeah, I felt like the input that I took in was outdated, obsolete, older folks saying this and that. And I took that to heart and I shouldn't have. And I do regret that.
Do you feel like that's a cultural thing in your family too, though? They culturally just have input to pass down, but you have strong female energy in your family that have a lot to say.
I think it was outside of my immediate family. So I think I would stay away from the overbearing people who want to exert their influence over you.
I was fortunate I didn't really have
Stay
that
clear.
because, my mom, there was no support there. And that's not a surprise from past episodes. I read books, and for the most part, I didn't look pregnant with my first one. So I just carried on living life. And the only time you would know I was pregnant is if I was getting sick or, you could see my belly as I got a little bit bigger. But I always kind of stayed kind of small pregnant. And when you're a curvy girl anyway, it doesn't look like you're pregnant. it's not evident right away. I had more questions the second time around with pregnancy because I knew what to expect, and like it was a different pregnancy and I wasn't quite ready for to be pregnant again. And so there was just more questions and more things and I needed more support. There was a lot going on. We were newly married, we were looking for a house, we were adjusting to be married, living together, all of these things. That was an adjustment, and then being pregnant too. But pretty much people are like, you're doing really well for being pregnant. I had a positive attitude. It didn't affect me hormonally like it did for others. I was more postpartum than I was anything else during pregnancy.
I've had 3 pregnancies, so every pregnancy was different. My second pregnancy, I was so stressed. I was going through school at that time, and I couldn't even barely take care of myself. And then on top of that, all this studying.
Was it a planned pregnancy or was it like unexpected? Because I think that makes a difference too.
Not planned by us, planned by God. I was super weak and stressed, didn't eat well, I was going through school, studied a lot, and just didn't even have barely any time for myself. And I carried smaller. I think I was 6 months pregnant at that time when I graduated. And then I had to study for the exams. Just so many competing demands on top of the fact that I had my first child who was 2.5.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it? When you have another child. Yeah.
So the second pregnancy is busier because you have your child, and then you're pregnant, and then all of these other demands put on you.
That when you have an unplanned pregnancy and and life happens, you definitely don't always think about what can happen. You know, you're so busy trying to survive and live life and take care of a toddler while being pregnant the second time around. You don't take the time to really think about, like, am I taking time for myself? Am I enjoying this pregnancy? It's not enjoyable if you've got 20 billion things going on and you're sick on top of that. The second pregnancy for me was unexpected. If it happened, it happened and it happened. And so I was like not quite ready. I had some mourning about, like, I didn't know if I wanted to be pregnant again, but here I am pregnant. And my doctor's like, get it together, girlfriend. So I was like feeling a certain way. I had had some thyroid issues that I didn't know what I had with my first pregnancy. After I delivered, I discovered that. And so once I was on thyroid medicine, oh my gosh, that helped so much. But I was working part time. I had a toddler. I was now pregnant. My pregnancy was so different. I had no nausea, but I had Braxton Hicks, where like my stomach muscles would tighten. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to deliver this baby earlier than we had planned. So that was always on the forefront because I was doing too much. And I was like taking care of patients and cleaning their home. I was like all over the place, working different jobs as a CNA in people's homes. And so they would have me do housekeeping. Sometimes they had me doing not just light housekeeping. And so I worked up until pretty much I delivered. I delivered with my son at 37 and a half weeks. And so I never went on bed rest. Whereas with Riley, my first one, I went on bed rest like a few months before I delivered, and I delivered her at 37 weeks. So completely different, right? And trying to take care of a baby and being pregnant and going, when you're high risk, you have to go to a lot more doctor's appointments. And then knowing how I felt the first time, not having enough support. So when I felt like I didn't have enough support or help the second time around because I knew what was going on. I needed help, but I didn't know how to ask for it. My daughter never slept. But what do you do when your child doesn't sleep? And so you're pregnant, you're trying to get rest, and they say sleep when your baby sleeps, and that doesn't happen. I mean, all of it. It was really, really hard. And I had an active, almost 2-year-old, and then I would work part time, trying to raise a child and being pregnant at the same time. It was a lot. And then, going to appointments. And I think we had one car then. So my sister was a big help, and she would come pick me up, and I'd give her gas money to take me to appointments because we lived near one another. She was a great support. And she had no children, so she could be supportive, like helping me to take up to appointments, but she didn't understand some of the things I was going through because she had not experienced that. And I didn't really have my mother-in-law to talk to. She was too busy working, and she would offer to help every once in a while, but I didn't know how to ask for support. I didn't have support.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I wish that they offered some of the same things they do now. It would have been very comforting and reassuring that it's going to be okay. And I knew what to expect because I'd already had my first one. But I didn't know how labor was going to go because this pregnancy was so different. I thought for sure I was going to deliver earlier.
I think the consensus is you do need more support during that second pregnancy.
I
For
agree.
all of the reasons that we mentioned, you have another child, you're working, you're pregnant, and dealing with those physical manifestations. And that could be from your partner, it could be from other supportive people. It is imperative that that support be there for that process to be easier for the mom and for everybody else for that matter.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well, I agree.
Whether the support be in the form of physical support, doing things around the house, helping with the other child, some mental support, and spiritually too. I kind of group those together. I had the third pregnancy. I had a 6-year gap and then got pregnant with my
Okay.
son. I think the hormones hit me a different way. I was so sick with nausea, vomiting
So
with my
just like the
son.
first, you got sick again.
Out of the 3 pregnancies, the nausea and vomiting was the worst with my son, with the
Wow.
third one.
Interesting.
It was terrible. And I was in that state of being nauseated pretty much every day of the pregnancy up until delivery.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, but there was also the excitement too because he was the first boy, and then I had a nephew. There was the excitement of having the 2 boys be close.
Yeah.
I knew it was my last pregnancy too because I was getting
Yeah.
up there in age and I didn't plan on having any more kids. I did want to relish in that a little bit more.
For me, I didn't get a choice. The doctor was like, after the second delivery, no, you're too high risk. And that's kind of a grieving process too.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a girl and I had a boy and I was happy with that. But what if I wanted, like, who's to tell me I can't have more? But, in reality, we were done, but it was hard. It was hard to take that in because wonder if I wanted more.
So the closing of that chapter.
The closing of it. Yeah.
Of those experiences.
Of those
And
experiences.
we don't really think about that, right?
And comments that family makes, like my mother-in-law, another one? Like, you guys are done, right? Like, people would make comments
Well, I
that weren't
wish people wouldn't do
supportive.
that. I wish people wouldn't
It
do
was
that.
hurtful, hearing that because we were young. My children are like just about 22 months apart. So we did have children back to back pretty much.
Mhm.
And so people projected their opinions, but I was 20 when I had my daughter, 28 when I had my son, the way the math worked out.
Mhm.
And then we were done. So it's not like we were like 19.
Right.
We had children pretty quickly in our marriage. I don't regret it now. Like we made it through. It was really rough growing together in a marriage and raising children. Nothing prepares you at whatever age you get pregnant. It doesn't matter. You could be younger or older, the
Yeah.
maturity levels. You think you're more mature and then you get pregnant and all the parenting things. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter.
It
You need
doesn't matter.
support at whatever age, especially if you're younger when you are pregnant.
The support needs to be appropriate, not overbearing.
Keep your
And
comments to
and the
yourself.
projection of this, that, and
Yeah.
the other. Please don't.
Yeah. It
That's
was
not helpful.
hurtful and not supportive. And I just didn't feel like I couldn't really talk to her about things. I wasn't open for that. I was working, I was raising a child. And so and back then I wasn't really talking about all my feelings as much. And so that was another factor, bringing all that kind of stuff in. It's like there's so much better support these days
And
that I think that definitely continuing this for a part 2, the labor and then beyond,
yeah,
is a good conversation to have because that's where I was the most affected.
right. So you'll have more input there. But I will say that during this episode of talking about pregnancy, the thing that stands out the most, and let me just kind of summarize it for myself as well as for our viewers. Inside of you is a life that's forming, not just physically, but spiritually. I think the bottom line or the take home message that I'm hearing is that there needs to be support and it needs to start from the closest in and work its way out. And I pray for everybody and I hope that everybody has
Right.
support that's given in the right way. Don't forget that you also have strengths. Your strengths will come through. The qualities that make you the mom
Right.
are going to come through. I hope that nobody is an obstacle for that to come through, and don't be an obstacle for yourself either.
I agree with you. I'm like, don't listen to the naysayers. There's never going to be a right time to get pregnant or like start trying. People are going to have so much advice, and try not to listen to all the advice and take all that on because it just isn't healthy. And try to be as positive as you can Um, and really take the time for yourself and don't forget to ask for things. Say, I don't know what I'm asking for, but I need something. Luckily, these days there's great support out there. Don't be afraid to join these groups or talk to people about how you're feeling, or even a therapist to help you work through these feelings, because your hormones are crazy during pregnancy and off the charts, and your spouse is like, they don't know how to deal with that. That's new for them too, and they're affected too. And most people don't talk about how your spouse is affected. Oh, we poo poo it like, whatever, you're not the one carrying this baby, but they change too. And they go through a process too. Check in, like they have a little bit of a loss where they don't have you all to themselves anymore, that they have to share you. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is a process.
For those who are not pregnant and are around pregnant moms, just be aware that they're going through a lot and that they're sensitive. So be careful what you say
Right.
and be careful what you do.
Honor people's choices and support people and uplift people. If you like what we're all about, join us next time for part 2.
See you next time.
Bye.
We are all about community. Join our community by following and subscribing to Be On It through YouTube, Instagram, and of course your podcasting platform, so we can continue to bring Be On It to you. Just so you know, this is for entertainment purposes only. We are speaking from our lived experiences and are not licensed therapists.